Hey, good Erev Shabbos. I just wanted to jump on here for a minute and add a little something. I shared a little bit earlier. I want to share a couple words for the Parsha, but I shared a little bit earlier this painting that I recently rediscovered. I painted this in honor of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, and Rabbi Nachman's teachings have really enriched my life for years and years, and this painting reflects some of that. When I first made the painting, I was thinking I wanted to make a picture of Rabbi Nachman, and there was a painting floating around, a drawing floating around that I thought was, that people thought was what Rabbi Nachman looked like. He was known to be gingy, red hair, and I saw this picture. So the one that came out, it doesn't look exactly like the one I saw, but I based it and started that painting, made that painting. So, and then I shared. On my wall, I shared this little piece that I'm going to read, and then I'll take a little bit further, because it also comes up in the painting. You know, what I'm sharing with you now is part of what's coming through in the painting that I didn't mention in the quote that I put up with the picture before, with the previous post. So we'll start with that line: tie joy to your mind. Says Rabbi Nachman. There's a book compiled by Zivi Ritchie. Rabbi Nachman says the teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, taught by Rav Shlomo Karlbach, Zichrono Tzadik Lebracha. Both of them Zchut Aleinu, Zchut Amagen Aleinu. Okay, says Rabbi Nachman, it's not enough to be happy. You have to tie joy to your mind. It's possible that every part of you is joyous, and your mind can still be in exile, can still be sad. So you have to take your mind, and you have to tie joy to your mind. In other words, a free person is one who is a master over his mind, who can take hold of his own mind and pin down his mind to think, what's happening to me? What is the purpose of my life? Right? A slave is someone who's not a master of his mind, who cannot take hold of his mind. So the only way to get out of slavery is with joy. So how to become happy? How do you come to joy? So what do you do when you're full of sadness? ולבוא לשמחה הוא על ידי שמוצא בעצמו איזה נקודה טובה. It says Rabbi Nachman. Sorry, it's written in English, Hebrew here. Transliteration, it's a little tricky. Right? The only way to become happy is if you suddenly look at yourself and say, I'm actually not that bad. I find a good point in myself. Here's something good that I did. I'm really not as bad as I thought. What makes us so sad? We look at ourselves and we give up on ourselves. If we would at least start thinking, well, I'm not as bad as I thought. In fact, I'm doing a lot of good things. Rabbi Nachman says it can't be that your whole life that you never did someone a favor. So you did a person a favor. Isn't that enough to dance in the streets of the world all your life? Just yell, Gewalt, I did a favor. It's the greatest thing in the world, because who are you? You're just a little human being, flesh and blood, and you did someone else a favor. Gewalt, one time in your life you did a favor. So Rabbi Nachman takes it further and says, it's not possible that in your entire life that you didn't pray at least once. So you prayed once. You spoke to God once. Do you need more? How much more do we need to be happy? So then Rabbi Nachman says, isn't it enough that you're a grandchild of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov? Isn't it the greatest honor in the world? If you're lowly and rotten, if you're the worst, lowest level, you're still connected to the highest and highest place. And he takes it further and further, right? And all of these things are on that same theme of connection, which we brought up in the beginning, right? To tie my heart, we have to make an effort to connect ourselves to the right things, right? That what we're thinking is where we are, and where our hearts are is where we are. So we need to, if we just went with our nature, we wouldn't get too far. But if we work on ourselves and work on our minds and direct our hearts to things that are the greatest things, then we're going to be in the greatest places. So this is connected also to something that I read also today in the Tanya and a little bit further back. So I'll just jump in here. I know it's close to Shabbos. We have a lot to do, but it's so good. We got to just look at it for a second. So now we're looking at the Tanya, the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, it's Chabad teachings. And, when Rabbi Nachman comes up, a lot of times Chabad comes up. They're so different, and yet there's a lot of interesting crossover. So in paraphrasing, says the Alter Rebbe, when a person looks at a king, a human king, they know it's a king. no matter if the king is wearing the king's clothing, even if the king is wearing no clothing, it's still a king. They know it's the king. And there's no difference in how much a person fears a human king, how they're dressed. It doesn't make any difference. So we realize from this that it's not the garments that make us fear a king, right? It's not the garments. And this is also true, says the Alter Rebbe, of everything else. He says, and I'm just going to say it in English. He says the essential thing is the training to habituate one's mind and thoughts continuously, tie your mind, so that it always remain imprinted in his heart and mind that everything one sees with his eyes, the heavens and the earth and all they contain, constitutes the outer garments of the king, the Holy One, blessed be he. And in this way, a person will constantly remember the inwardness and vitality of everything. So when I look at anything, and this is a theme that is a beautiful, amazing, deepening experience to be learning the Tanya, because the Tanya is teaching a person to really connect themselves, to remember to actually, that it matters what we think about. If I contemplate, whatever I'm contemplating, the amazingness of how many different trees I see just out my window, if I start to learn about the cosmos and all the stars and how big the solar system is, and that we live in this amazing place, and all the details about how a human being is alive and how amazing that is. So the amazingness of life, I spend time contemplating that, so my level of, being amazed and in awe of the creation rises, and also my love, my connection to the Creator goes up a level, because it's not just the natural given love, which is a gift that's given to all of us, a certain level that's a gift. And so what the Alter Rebbe is talking about here is that gift is also, it's a latent gift until we bring it to the level of it. There's a latentness to it, meaning it's like asleep inside of us, it's there. But by making these efforts, then contemplating the greatness, just looking out a window into the world and seeing the sky, seeing clouds go by, seeing the sunrise in the morning, the sun go down in the afternoon, how unbelievable and amazing awesome this world is. There's so many examples of it constantly around us. So by doing that, I'm habituating myself to understand how awesome this creation is, how this world is that we're in. Okay, so taking this a little bit further, and I personally thought this was interesting because I love to do art. The Alter Rebbe therefore now goes on to explain that this intellectual perception is also implicit in the word emuna, faith. For the word is the same root word as uman or oman, artisan, an artist. So in order for an artisan with a talent for painting, creating vessels, or whatever to be successful, he must habituate and train his hands. You have to get used to doing something and practice. So I know, it took me years before I could really make anything with glass. And then, once it was 10 years that I was practicing and working, there were new things that I could do by making that effort. And by doing this, they will reveal the latent talents of the artistry found in his soul. Those things are already inside, but we have to make an effort to get them out. The same is true here. The soul of every Jew possesses the above-mentioned faith. However, in order for this faith to be actualized, that your actions are really in consonance with it, we must habituate and train himself to realize that all that he sees, heaven, earth, all of creation, looking at any detail of creation, all are but God's external garments. By constantly remembering that their inwardness is godliness, the soul's essential faith will be revealed and will affect one's actions. Okay, so then he says the whole person really just follows in that direction. The words of the Alter Rebbe, V'zeh nichlal gam b'lashon emunah, shehu lashon regilut, shemeragil ha'adam et atzmo kamo oman she'ma'amin yadav v'chulei. This is also implicit in the word, in Hebrew the word for faith is emunah, which is it's about training oneself, which a person makes it his habit. Just like an artist, it becomes a habit to use their hands to make something, to do something, to create something. By training his hands, he becomes cognizant of the craft of his soul. He has a natural talent for it. It's natural, but it needs to be brought out. It needs to be brought out into the world. And the expression needs to become tangible out in the world by making the vessels, by painting, or whatever it might be. So I thought that's really beautiful, and this I'm jumping again today to one of the verses that I read today in the Tanya. And it's a little bit of a jump, but just why not? Can come with me. And he says that he's talking about compassion, tiferet, this place, this element of life, of compassion, which is connected to Yaakov, to Jacob, that it's really also about being connected like a rope. And he's saying that really anything that a person does here is connected on high to the other end of themselves in creation, in the essence of their creation. There's a pasuk that says, Yaakov Hevel Nachalato. Right? We come from this place to Tiferet, the compassion, the harmony, connection of Yaakov it can be interpreted that it's the rope of his inheritance. Right? You could say that it's his lot, but it can also be interpreted as his rope, that he's connected. Getting back to the idea, that first idea Rabbi Nachman is bringing up. Hi, Judy, good Shabbos. That Rabbi Nachman is bringing up that we have to tie ourselves, we have to tie our minds to joy, and we have to tie our hearts to joy. So I just feel like all these ideas were coming together, so I just wanted to share with you for a little moment. So really, no matter what we're doing down here in our lives is making an effect on high. And so if we decide to, since we're tied above to ourselves down here, so if we tie ourselves down here to thoughts that are expanding our consciousness, that we're learning things, that we're letting ourselves be amazed at the creation, how amazing the world is. And it's not always easy. Obviously, everyone's struggling in the ways that they're struggling, and especially now in the world, there's so much, obvious struggle, but yet life is unbelievably amazing. Why does everybody care so much? Because life is so amazing. And so recognizing that, connecting to how awesome life is, whatever we do down here is going to make an effect on the other end of the rope up above in Shemaim. So we should give Hashem a lot of nachas with our thoughts, with our habits, and move in the direction of goodness, of also coming around in good time to connecting with each other. And like Rabbi Nachman says, we should habituate ourselves to looking for the good, finding good points. And one last little thing. So this is a little bit, almost tiny taste of like a Van Gogh style with the stars flying in the sky there around Rabbi Nachman. So the stars in the sky, Rabbi Nachman's main student, gave a teaching that I really love, saying, we have this idea, you look for the good, you find something good. It's like you look up in the sky at night, and it's a big black sky, it's a big void. And then you look up and you see a sparkling star in the sky. And that star in the sky is like picking out a good point. You see one good shining point. If we do this for ourselves, we do this for other people, we do it for our life, and we're connecting our lives to the goodness, the positivity of life. And then by doing that, a person is automatically in a good place. Right? Even if I weren't in a good place before, it directs them and shifts them into a positive place because we are where our minds are. So we should really habituate ourselves to all the good things to the point where we just realize it's all so awesome, and it really, really is. And it comes around because we're doing that, because what we do down here affects the upper worlds. Good Shabbos, everyone. All the best.